and welcome to Hedgehog Hollow. Today I have an unboxing for you of this fab box of goodies that Ranger have sent me of some of the new Wendy Vecchi collection from her new collection with Ranger. So we're going to do an unboxing and then we're going to make a project together. Now some of you may know that last year I got to do a Wendy Vecchi class at Ranger HQ. So I'm super excited to see what's inside my box. I opened it up, I got to see that there's a lovely Wendy Vecchi make art sticker on here, and that's as far as I got. I thought we could unbox it together. So let's take a look what's inside. We can break the seal. I'm really excited. I got to see some of her demo that Greg got to video at the Ranger morning, which you can see in the top right hand corner. There's a link to that video as well. So we have some of her new Ranger photopolymer stamps. Look at these gorgeous stamps she's designed. So there's stamps in here, these beautiful flowers, all of them mix and match onto these stems here. And then in the back here you have the matching dies as well. Beautiful stamps there. And we have more stamps as well. So we have more flowers. Wendy loves her flowers and she really does have beautiful ones. And then we have pots that we can put them in as well to mix and match. And again, we have the matching dies in the back there. And I just noticed we also have the stencils, and I'll show you how those stencils work with the stamps. Wendy has a really great idea how they work. And you also have stencils in that other set as well. I didn't notice to start with. So I'll show you how they work together as well. We have some of the super large archival pads. These are great, and I love archival inks. If you've been watching my videos recently, you'll know I'm a big convert to archival inks. We have Watering Can and we have Carnation Red. Two colours I actually use a lot. I really like the Watering Can. It's kind of a darker grey and it's not an intense black. So if you don't want a really strong image, or you maybe want to do some offset stamping, this is a really nice colour to work with. So we'll do some stamping with that as well. Then we have two of her new washi tape sets. So this one here, you've got 6 rolls in here. I really like this. Look at that one down here. Almost looks like some kind of like raw iron. We have a watercolor. We have polka dots. We kind of have like a hash design on there. We've got stripes. And this really nice kind of flowers in the top here as well. And then this one I think actually is my favourite. So again, we have that lovely kind of loop design with her stripes. I also like this loop design here, but what I really like are these hearts at the top here. We've got dots on here, and then this one says, this side up, important details, happy mail with love. So I really like that one. I think that's a really pretty one as well. I think this is my favourite one here. And then, of course, all the links to all these will be in the description for you as well. And then we have 4, more than 4, or I was going to just say, is more of her Make Art Blendable Dye Inks. We have Buttercup, Tea Rose, Potting Soil, Sky Blue, Peat Moss and Thistle, and these are the same colours that her archival inks come in as well. So we have really pretty inks, and everything always coordinates together with Wendy as well, which is something I really love about her inks. But these are going to work beautifully with her other blendable dye inks. So I'm going to grab all my other Wendy Vecchi items and then we're going to make some projects together too. So this is my Wendy Vecchi collection, and I've grabbed out all of my inks. So I do have some of her other stamps and dyes, stamps and stencils and things like that. But I wanted to show you her inks and how it all kind of works together beautifully. So these are my previous Make Art Blendable Dye inks. So this is her previous release that I had. So I've collected all of those. And then these are the previous archival inks I had. So these are her colours in archival inks. And they're sold in sets of 4 in the smaller pads. And these are all the ones I had. And then she has released a couple more sets in the smaller pads like this. But I already had them in this larger full size pad, so I hadn't switched over to the smaller size because I already had those colours. I may do over time, but I haven't at the moment. And now we have these giant pads, which are going to be amazing, and I can't wait to play with those. And then we have these new Make Art Blendable colours, which you saw in my unboxing just now. And for instance, things like the Tea Rose. You'll notice all of these colours are already available in archival. So we have Tea Rose, and then we have the Tea Rose archival ink, and there's a Tea Rose mini pad, or you could get a Tea Rose full-size pad if you wanted to do that. You could get a pad that's this size in Tea Rose. That is available, but I'm quite happy with these. And you can get re-inkers as well, so you don't have to buy a new pad if you don't want to. Then there are other things in the Wendy Vecchi range. She has her Perfect Card Adhesive. Now, if you watch my wrap up from my Wendy Vecchi class when I went to Ranger, you'll know that this is a fab adhesive. It's really, really strong. You can do all sorts of things with it. You can also do some fab resist techniques with it as well. But also, if you get some ooze or anything like that, you can rub and rub and rub, and it doesn't give you sticky. It doesn't go all dark and gooey. It's really like some of my favorite adhesives, and if you watch my channel regularly, you'll know I love my Nouveau Deluxe as well. This is right up there because it's just as great. I love this adhesive too. I showed you the new washi tapes. She also has her Perfect Card adhesive as well. We have the white and the grey, which is what we'll be working on for our panels today. The grey is a nice change to work on, and it also really pops with the sunflower. That's a really pretty colour. The watering can. Many of Wendy's colours really pop nicely on this grey, and it's refreshing to work with something other than white, because I think we always stamp on white or black cardstock, so working on that grey is a really fun idea. Something else that Wendy showed us at class that I wanted to show you as well is the Letter It clear foam. Now, I'd never seen a clear foam before, but I ended up buying a lot of packs of it, and I've used it a lot for shaker cards, for behind vellum, for all sorts of fun things. Just having a clear foam that's adhesive is a little bit different, and I don't know, it's kind of cool. And I found I use it just here and there for little things all the time when I'm crafting. I know I haven't used it much in videos, but I thought I should highlight it to you. And again, links will all be in that video description for you. There is also an archival stamp cleaner as well, so that's another great thing. And there is a Ranger scrubby for your stamp pads. This is the Ranger scrub pad, so it has a foam base and you can scrub on it. I personally, if I'm going to scrub with my Nouveau, you'll notice on the back of this one I have a thing that says stays on only. I use this for when I use my stays on pad, and this is actually my archival one. This is a Nouveau stamp pad cleaner that I keep in my little cupboard, and this is how I clean my archival inks off most of the time. I'll give it a quick wipe with my tidy towel, and then after I'm done stamping I have a good clean. I pop some archival cleaner down and I really give my stamps a good scrub, and this is what works for me. It might not work for you. You might like the Ranger scrubby, but there's some of the options available to you. And the other thing that Wendy has, which we'll be using today with those fab stencils she has, are the mini blending Dorpers. So these are double-ended. They're kind of like our normal Ranger blending tools like this, but in a very small size. These pieces don't come off, they're just a wooden piece in the middle, and they have the blending on either end. But you'll see when we start using her stamps with her stencils why she has this option available to her. And this little pencil case of I'm an Artist, she made for us at the class we did, and it's stamped with archival ink. And the thing about archival ink is you can stamp on non-porous surfaces, and it's waterproof. So she stamped on this, ironed it, that made it waterproof and heat kind of, you know, steadfast on fabric. So as soon as you heat set it on fabric, it's there forever, it's permanent. So that was her top tip, and she made us these. And so I store, it's very colourful in here. You can see my ink's kind of gone all over the place, but that's my Wendy Vecchi little mini Dorper storage solution. So let's make a project. And you can see over here, this is how I have my excess little Ranger handles and my excess little foamies stored, and some of my Nouveau blending brushes as well. So that's how I have all my bits and pieces stored over there. I'm going to put all of this to the side, and we're going to start doing some stamping. So I think I'm going to work with this new stamp set. So this is one of the ones that Ranger sent to me, and it is called Flowers Say It All. So let's open this up. I'll try and open it up as carefully as I can. Actually, let's snip it. I think that might be a better way to go. So these are photopolymer stamps. As I say, they have the dies in there, and they're going to have this stencil in there, which we'll be using as well. And you'll see why this stencil is such an awesome idea that Wendy had. And I'm going to work on, let's work on that perfect grey so I can show you why it's so cool. So we're going to work on this. And you do have the option with these stamps of positioning any of them onto this stem that's in here. I am actually going to do a cluster. So I'm going to take my flowers, I'm going to take this new jumbo archival watering can pad. I mean, how cool is this? The other great thing about these pads is that you can, and archival pads have been around a long, long time, and I'm really trying not to get my fingers all messy just yet, or get it on my shirt. You can clip this off. So if you're working on a super large project, you can clip this off and you could go direct to your surface as well. Just making sure I ink that up nicely. So I'm just going to do a cluster. I'm going to stamp some off the edge. And I know I'm going to end up trimming down this cardstock as well, so I'm not too worried about where they're going to be precisely. And so I'm just kind of curving them around the edge here, because I'll end up putting a sentiment. And I'm also trying to be a little bit clever about how I end up putting them in there, because I don't really want to have to do any masking. I'm kind of a lazy crafter. If I can avoid masking, I really will. So I'm really kind of trying to tessellate my stamps in there. I think Greg will appreciate my use of the word tessellate there too. He's nodding, I think, behind the camera, yeah. So rather than having to mask, so you can see there what I've done is I've just created this kind of L around the edge of my card. I'm going to put another stamp just in this corner down here. I'm going to pick out a different one. There's 3 buds in here. So I'm going to pick out another rose. And I'm stamping with that lovely grey still. So it's just subtle enough. So that's my design. No masking at all. So really, really easy design. And then that leaves me a nice space up here for some kind of sentiment when we're done. I have no real vision about what we're doing in particular. I'm going to now just, as I say, it's really easy as well. If you've done that, you just clip that back on. And now our pieces are clipped on there. I'll pop these stamps to the side, I'll clean them afterwards. But they are really easy to clean, and I do recommend getting that archival cleaner. Now I can show you why these stamps with their stencils are so cool. I'm just going to snip this off as well. So this is the stencil that you get in there. We're going to use some of those mini blending brushes. Let me grab some clean ones. So we'll grab some out of there, and we're going to grab those new Make Art blendable colours as well. So we'll start work with those, and we might throw in some of the older colours as well. But what you do is I'll show you a couple and then I'll speed up working on the other ones. But you lay your stencil over, and I'm going to move this closer so you can see it in a second. But what it allows you to do, once you've laid your stencil over, and I'll move this up so the camera can see it, is it masks around that stamped image. So right now the only bit exposed is that stamped image. So now when I take my Dorper and I take my Buttercup, I am going to throw in a little bit of sunflower as well. Take my 2 lids off, and I'll start with my Buttercup. So I don't have to worry about going outside the lines of my stamped image. I mean, how cool is that? So I can now go in all over with my Buttercup, which is a lovely light yellow colour. And you may not know, but you can actually blend with archival images as well. You don't have to, archival inks even. I didn't know that till I went to Wendy's class. That was something pretty neat that I learned there. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to turn my Dorper the other way up, pick up some sunflower, and I'm going to throw some of that in at the tips, just so I have darker tips to my flower. Wendy also has something coming in, I think it's March or April, and you'll find it on the channel. Again, I'll put it in that top right hand corner for you. It's coming, it's called the Make Art Station, and it has magnets in it, so it's going to hold all these things in place. I'm super excited about it. It looks awesome. I got to look at it at Creativation, but it's going to hold all our stencils in place. It's going to hold absolutely everything in place, and it just looks amazing. It's going to cost $20, so it's a great price point for crafters. And I love the idea that we're not going to have to tape things down any longer. So as soon as that's available, we'll let you know as well. And I'll also put in the description a Notify Me Now link of where you can go to find out when that's going to be available. But I've done that. I'm also just going to add just a little bit of colour in the centre there. And I'm using Orange Blossom for this centrepiece. But you can see there, I'm going to pull this forward, that my colour is right just in that flower. I've not gone over the edges. It was super, super easy, no colouring. I just use these mini little blenders, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to colour in this entire image just using that method. And you're going to see how quick and easy that is just using these stencils. I think it's really cool. So this really is super easy colouring. Now I know I sped that up, but it actually only took me 11 minutes to colour an entire image. And I've got lots of shading in there. I mean, you don't have to be an expert colourist at all. And you can see that my roses have lots of colours. I ended up using the red geranium, the poppy, and the tea rose for my roses. And then for the purple flowers, I couldn't exactly decide what they are. I think they're kind of maybe a chrysanthemum. So I used the sky blue, the watering can, and the thistle. And something you'll find out about the watering can is it really does have some magical properties in it. So I'm also going to fill in just a little bit in between these gaps because I don't want it to look too bare. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clean-ish blender. I don't know if I've got any fairly new ones in my little bag of tricks here. This one's not too bad. So I'm going to put my lids on here. And I'm trying to keep my new colours slightly apart, but I'm not doing the best job here. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of colour. I'm just going to lightly shade in between. I'm giving it a really, really light touch. I'm not going to worry if it goes onto the flower slightly. I'm not looking for deep colour. I'm just looking for it to not be stark cardstock. And what you'll notice is it just kind of makes it look like it's a nice arrangement of flowers. So what I'll do in a second is once I've done half, is I'll show you the half I've done. And because I'm putting very little ink on my blender, even if I do touch the flowers I've already done, I'm not making my flowers grey. And so yes, it takes me a little bit longer to build up the amount I want, but it's easier to build up more colour. It's harder to take colour away. The other thing is these are water reactive inks. So you can spray them and do fun things with them. There are so many different things you can do. And what you'll notice is I'm also going around the edges because I want to soften out how those behave and how it just kind of appears. And so anywhere that I have a gap between a flower, just going in and adding just a little bit of that watering can. As I say, watering can and sunflower for me are two of my favourite colours. I use these all the time, all sorts of projects. They just have some magic quality. If you put watering can on the bottom or sunflower on the bottom and you put other colours over the top, they shine through. And sunflower on this grey cardstock just looks amazing. So nearly halfway around. And the other thing I really like about these small Dorpers is you can just get in those little places. So I can get in these tiny little areas. Just, as I say, it's not a huge amount of ink. I'm not looking for big grey shadows. I'm just looking to take that starkness. So far what I've done is I've done all of this area. So it's softened in here, whereas in here I have this very harsh grey area. Down here I have this much softer area. So this looks more like a kind of watercoloured, nicely blended area. This looks a little bit harsher. So I'm just going to keep going. I'll do this a little bit closer over here. So I just have a tiny little bit of ink. I'm just blending a little bit. Tiny little dab of ink. Just blend a little bit. So I'm not doing much at all, but it just allows me that little bit of flexibility. And so that is my finished arrangement. And how easy was that? I mean, this is a really quick and easy card. These stencils are amazing. When Wendy showed us this in the class, I was like, wow, where have these stencils been all my crafting life? So let's mount this up into a card, because this really is such a quick and easy technique to use. So I'm going to cut this down to my usual card kind of size. I do have a card front ready. Let me see if I want to matte it or not, because I'm not sure if I want to matte this grey. Let's have a look. And you know I'm the matting queen of how I like to do my layers. So get my trusty Score Buddy out. And I did do a review. Lots of you asked me, why do I always use this Score Buddy? So if you want to know, there is a video. Check that top right hand corner. You can find out more. You can probably also hear our girls there playing hide and seek. I guess Tilly's just been sought, or maybe she's hid and found Maddie, I'm not sure. So I'm just going to firm that up. Let me find my Teflon bone folder to really firm that crease up. I'm going to work out if I want an extra layer. I do think I'm going to have one extra layer in between. Now my favourite matting cardstock is actually the Tonic Satin Black cardstock, and I always have lots of it pre-cut, ready to go, and you can see here typically something is nearly in the right size. So my matting layer for this would be 4 inches by 5 1/4. And so my grey cardstock would go down to 5 inches by 3 3/4. And so I need to decide how much of each side I want to trim off. So this is currently down to 4 inches. So I will need to decide, do I want to trim off some of this side? And sometimes you'll decide you want to trim a little bit off of each side. That's perfectly fine too. So that's my trimmed down piece. That's going to go on here. So you can see how this is coming together. Really pretty card on there as well. And then we're going to need a sentiment. So in the stamp set there are some sentiments. There's one that says hello, there's one that says flowers says it all, there's a thinking of you, my friend. I like the flowers say it all. I think that's really pretty. And then that's going to work perfectly just across here like this. I think that's going to look really nice. We're going to do that on some white cardstock, and I have some of the Wendy Vecchi Perfect cardstock in white here as well, so we can stamp that out. And I'm going to use that lovely grey ink as well, just so that it all coordinates together perfectly. So again, I'll use that same ink block. Now when I work with a photopolymer sentiment, a lot of people say to me, how do you get this straight? And I have a top tip for you on how you get these things straight. Just pop it down on your surface, whether you're going to work on the new Make Art Station, whether you work on a glass mat, just on your table, pop it down. You'll see it automatically straightens itself out because they're manufactured straight. Pick it up with your Misty, your glass acrylic block, however you like using it. Tap it nicely on your ink, stamp it down. Your stamp will now automatically be straight itself. It will automatically straighten itself out, and then you can use your paper trimmer to then just cut it straight. I mean, I know there are dies and things out there that can help you cut a lovely straight sentiment strip. There are tools, all those kinds of things. But if you check out the 2-minute tip that's in your top right hand corner, I did a video on how you can use this Tim Holtz trimmer to cut out the perfect sentiment every single time. And you can see now, I also still have most of my cardstock left for another sentiment, and you can reserve even more of this cardstock if you wanted to. And I'm now going to have the perfectly straight sentiment strip that I need. And I also, in that same tip, showed you how to get a nice even edge and how to refine your even edge depending on how large you want your border to be. Running out of room on my desktop. So let's put all of our card together. And the other thing you can do, as I said, these are water reactive inks. If I now wanted to add a little bit of extra texture, I can take my light mist bottle and I can spritz it with water. I can now use my heat tool, or I can use my kitchen towel, and I can heat. And what you're going to see is it adds just a little bit of extra texture to my project. Little bit of extra interest. Sometimes it takes me a couple of spritzes to get the exact texture I want. You'll notice my cardstock curls up and then it curls back down again as I heat it. And the reason I use the Ranger Heat It tool over my embossing tool for this part of the technique is because if I got some pooled water that got a big ink kind of dollop in it, is that it's not going to move that ink around. The Ranger Heat It tool has all that heat your embossing tool has, but it doesn't have the big airflow. So it's not going to move your ink around. You're just going to get that beautiful texture. So when I'm watercoloring, I always reach for my Ranger Heat It tool because it's perfect for that. And so I can just see my roses now. They're really starting to pop. They've got some beautiful texture. It's kind of just made those inks blend together beautifully even more. I'm really, really happy with this card. I love how it's come out. And sometimes I go into a project knowing exactly how it's going to look, and then sometimes I go like this and I have no idea, and I just kind of see how it goes as it goes along. Now the other thing I'm going to give you a tip for is when you have been ink blending, before you start matting up your cardstock, give your surface a wipe. I have a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in my mist bottle here. And you want to give your work surface a wipe because I've been blending, I've blended over the edge, I put all sorts of things down, and I do have some ink on my surface here, and I don't want that on my card base. I don't want my card base to stay nice and clean, so I'm going to use my Perfect Card Adhesive because I have it right here, and you really don't need much either. I actually kind of put a little bit too much out there. And I am a dotty gluer. I don't know why. I just am. I feel like we all have different styles. Now the other thing is, I always mat with my card base open. And some of you may ask why. If I mat like this, even if I have a really nice fold in my card base, I still have a spring in it. And that means I can get an uneven mat. If I mat it like this, it's always going to be perfectly flat and it's not going to move around on me, which means I can go down like this. And the advantage of using a liquid adhesive over a tape means I have a little bit of wiggle room, means I can move it around a few times so I get that nice perfect mat. Give it a nice rub and you'll find that it dries within a few seconds. And we'll start adding some to our top layer. We'll do the same. See, just a dotty gluer. I don't know why. I think I picked it up somewhere one day, and then I'm all about the polka dots. Everything in my life is all about the polka dots. You could then take some Nuvo drops or some stickles and you could add some extra details. You could add some gems. The other thing about using a liquid adhesive is particularly when you've added water and heat and things, and it's curled up on you a little bit, a liquid adhesive is going to be a little bit firmer about holding it down and making sure it adheres properly, and it's not going to curl up in the post and fall off when your recipient opens it at the other end. Now you can see here I got a little bit of an ooze out of here because I used a little bit too much adhesive. A perfect card adhesive, it wipes away so easily, and it's not going to leave any residue at all. So that's just going to wipe away nicely. And then I'm going to use my sentiment, which is going to go up here beautifully, just up here, and I'm going to use that lovely clear Letter It foam. I'll take that out of the packaging. Brand new one to start with. So when the Letter It foam comes, it does have this plastic on either side, and I have a habit of leaving it in its plastic because I find that works nicely. Oh, my Tonic Craft pick's gone. I'm going to try and use my nails here to get this one started. There we go. We're going to put our piece on the back here. I never put foam all the way along. I know some people put a lot on, but you really don't need a lot. And it's much easier, in my opinion, to use a craft pick to pick up the back piece. But you can see that really genuinely is clear, and I think, particularly when I'm using shakers and things like that, you can't even see it on the camera, it's so clear. But it gives you a lot of dimension as well. I just love the fact they've made clear foam. I think that's really clever. And then you can pop that on here, like that. So that's our finished card, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some Nuvo dots. As I say, you could use stickles if you had those in your craft room as well. And I'm going to grab some, and we're just going to add some onto these tops on here as well. I'm going to grab my Morning Dew because that's my absolute favourite. And I think I'm also going to add possibly some of these. So that's my Nuvo wall you can see over there. So I have a lovely selection of Nuvo products to use, but stickles would work perfectly as well. So I'm going to add onto my Rose and so what I'm doing is in the middle of my daisy here, I'm adding some of that texture. Now right now it's going on very milky. Now Glossy Accents will go on in exactly the same way as well. That's the Ranger version of this. And we'll link up both in the description below for you as well. And these are going to dry clear, but they're still going to give you dimension. They're not going to be affected in the mail. And what I'm also doing is I'm just picking out some of those details in the rose. So what it's going to do is almost make it look like a little bit of a dewy rose. And so I just pick out just some tiny details, not too much. What it does, it just adds that little bit of extra interest. Again, the same, I'm not sure if this is a chrysanthemum or something else. You may even call it something different in America. I have found that a lot of things are called different things since we moved here. I have to say this Morning Dew is one of my favourite as Glossy Accents. It's great because you can put it in all over the place. It also acts as a really wonderful adhesive, super strong adhesive as well, if you're into your mixed media and things. And always with a stamp, let the stamp lines guide you. You'll find, I mean, in this rose, there's great lines that you can use. You'll find that there's kind of, where the artist leads you with extra shadowing, they're always great places to add in your extra dimension. And then I'm putting a very thin coat on, so you can leave this for probably about an hour and it will be done. These aren't big drops or anything like that. And I'll hold it up in just a second when it's done. And you'll notice I'm doing just a very light dot. That's why it's going to be dry so quickly. I'm just going to grab, this is a dream drop. This is something a little bit different. This is a new iridescent drop. I'm just piping it to the side first. These ones will take a little bit longer to dry, but they just add that finishing touch. So you can see there, that's the finished card. I'm not going to hold it up too high because I don't want my dream drops to drip. But look how beautiful, and you've got that, just that little bit of extra shimmer in there as well. So thank you so much for joining me here today at the Hedgehog Hollow. I hope you've enjoyed exploring this Wendy Vecchi collection. Do hop on over to Instagram as well, because I'm going to do a technique with archival inks and using them like an alcohol ink. It's a little bit different. We're going to do an Instagram TV as well, and that will be live today too. So go check that out at the Hedgehog Hollow. Again, we'll put links in the video description for you as well. So check that out on our Instagram. Do give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. I do love these products. Check them out in the video description as well. We've linked them all up for you as well in the different stores as well. So check those out. Do hit the subscribe button if you don't already subscribe here at the Hedgehog Hollow, and ring that bell so you get notifications of our future videos too. And a huge thank you to Ranger for sending me out this package. I've had so much fun playing. We'll see you again very soon. Happy stamping, everyone. Bye.